Renntech Mercedes. The official car of bringing up jelking on a hinge date. AMG isn't fast enough for you? You need Renntech. Sega Channel isn't good enough for you? Well, you need to rob the Blockbuster. An 850 horsepower wagon. Bougie and aggressive. Brought to you by watching the Golf Channel and doing powder at the same time. Yeah! Yeah, the pitching wedge! Most underrated club! My Mercedes makes 850 horsepower! I met Brian at Mainline Cars and Coffee while I was taping my dyno sheet to the windshield. This is a gray, unassuming German station wagon that makes more power than a Dodge Demon. 850 horsepower, 945 pound-feet of torque, sent to all four wheels. And of course, we have to film this in the rain. Awesome, so I don't have to worry about the tail doing much, although it may still do it. I'm not going to nail it too much,
You can nail it still, it's fine.
Here we go, in the rain. Woo. Yeah, that accelerates like the road's dry. If it wasn't for the spray and the visibility, I would have probably gone for passing that semi.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about what this car started as. Stock, a E63s AMG makes 585 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque, and it achieves a top speed of 186 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 time of about 4 seconds. That, of course, depends on tires and track conditions. And now T-posing, driving glove wearing, chronic Bimmer forum posters claim that an AMG W212 can, given undeterminate conditions, touch 200 miles an hour. And of course, today it's raining. It's been raining. At the time of filming, it had been raining for days here in Pennsylvania. Remember those photos of Pittsburgh underwater? Yeah, that was this rain. So in this weather, the capabilities of a 850 horsepower wagon are kind of hindered. Yes, it's all-wheel drive. But all-wheel drive doesn't mean much if your tires are hydroplaning 1 centimeter above the asphalt, which sheds all new light on big power all-wheel drive vehicles that aren't STIs. What's all this power for, if the weather can negate it?
The slight bit of creaking you hear is chassis flex. All the wagons do it.
I can
because
feel,
they don't have a trunk.
As I go around these corners, I can feel the bolstering adjusting.
Yeah. It's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Renntech. The official car of popping your car into neutral and fake rev matching on a downhill.
Renntech. Brought to you by Main Character Syndrome. All stats are at 10. You just wrote your own OC into your own Final Fantasy fan fiction where you one-shot Sephiroth. Or you wrote yourself into a Zootopia fan fiction and you pork J.K. Simmons. Or a Beastars fanfic, and you solved the mystery on the first episode, and then vored Juno. Or a Fast and Furious fanfic, and your Supra can double jump. You're an overpowered car that's luxurious, good-looking, aggressive, and a sleeper. Come on. You can't have an OC that just breaks the plot. You can't play an FPS in God mode, stream it, and expect the gaming community to take you seriously. There's a term in the hiking community that I was going to save for later in the episode because it's very inside baseball. It's me simultaneously talking about cars and long-distance hiking. But it gets into this whole idea of you spent so much money to get all the stats, and for what? So, how hard is it not to be cynical? I would argue it's pretty hard, actually. When a lot of modern cars don't really give you a reason to fall in love. It all feels so cold and statistical. We've added the correct amount of power to make this very fast, the appropriate amount of technology to be practical, sufficient interior space to be useful, but does this wagon have a soul? The Mercedes-Benz E63s is like a lecture from Captain Picard, because it's a car that gets everything right and still loses. It's the automotive equivalent of remaking Willy Wonka. It has chocolate, it has British people, it has an emotionally stunted American running a factory that would attract more OSHA visits than an iPhone sweatshop. But it doesn't have any of the whimsy or the fun of Willy Wonka. Give me Gene Wilder singing in an acid-trip tunnel while children are picked off one by one like some kind of fairy tale slasher movie. It's not perfect, but it has the charm of an imperfect experience. Mercedes has provided everything you should want in a wagon. It performs well. It's practical to the point of brutalism. It's less decorative and more punishingly efficient. It's so German you could leave at 10:30 for a 10 a.m. appointment and still be on time. It looks like it runs on dark lager and even darker bread. If it were any more German, it would be in the sauna right now, naked and tumescent. Germany is a beautiful country from everything we've seen. It has a unique car culture from every email we've gotten encouraging us to come visit. I do want to visit someday. After all, my family is from Bavaria. So why on earth would you make a car with all the imagination and aesthetic appeal of a liberal arts major building a Spotify playlist titled Cinematic Sadness? Your liked songs are already just a bunch of Elliott Smith and Joy Division. What are you making a playlist for? Just hit shuffle. This is a boring, aesthetically safe sedan whose entire design philosophy seems to be: you want a nice sedan, but you also don't want your wife to know it's you in the parking lot of Dan's Dance Revolution, formerly Dan's Diamond High.
Cancel your plans. Come on down to Dane's. Cancel your plans. Come on down to Dane's. Cancel your plans. Come on. Who needs lunch when you can look at all this munch? You like dudes? We got those too. It's an all-you-can-see buffet for the eyes, right next to the all-you-can-eat buffet for the shrimp. If you get food poisoning, too fucking bad. We're protected from all litigation. We're protected from all litigation. Why did I leave Auckland to come to the US to run a skin joint? Fuck you, stop asking questions. I believe in affordability for anybody trying to have 4Ds in their face. It's like me mama always said, we're all gonna die someday. Why not die under a nice, milky pair of norks? Or a nice long shlonga? Is that proper slang from the region I claim to be from? I don't even know. I wasn't popular and spent a lot of my days indoors developing a really nasty case of body odour falling out of this accent. What is this accent? No matter your preference, we'll cater to you. And yes, we do accept crypto. Guy, girl, retired from working life. This is awful. Back to the review.
I suppose if you want to get technical about it, this is a good car simply on the basis of its hardware. Beginning in the model year 2014, the station wagon was only available as an AMG S model, with the 4MATIC transmission standard. But the engine was still aggressive enough that we were essentially getting performance wagons for doing barrel rolls off the freeway and landing in the Whole Foods parking lot. Now, this E63s features the 5.5-liter twin-turbo V8, making, with the Renntech tune, 800 horse and 945 torque at the crank. At the wheel, that transmission eats up a bunch. At the wheel, it makes 700 horsepower and 800 pound-feet. The transmission is not a dual clutch, but the 7-speed wet clutch as part of Mercedes-Benz's AMG's Speed Shift MCT7 unit. And here's where we get into the meat of this build. This is the R3 Plus package from Renntech, which is arguably the biggest tuning company in the world for Mercedes and AMGs. Here's everything this car has. Stage 2 turbos, carbon charge pipes and intakes, high-pressure fuel pumps, a diverter valve, catted downpipes, ECU and TCU tunes, resonator and muffler delete, exterior and interior carbon trim, adjustable rear lowering links, but factory airbags, adjustable front springs, 390mm two-piece front rotors, 265s up front, 295s in the rear, and the R3 Plus package apparently includes stuff like powertrain control unit upgrades to bypass torque limits and an exhaust valve module, because if you can't make this car exciting, you can at least make it loud. It's the automotive equivalent of letting one rip in a crowd. People will whip around trying to find who dealt it, but you blend in with the sea of pressed shirts and slip-on loafers at Sunday service. A build like this is excessive for any car, much less a car like this. You're paying to be the best. There are better ways to flex, you know. Just get a tattoo from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Just the whole story, front to back. Have it start at the base of your neck and end at the spot that starts acting like a greeting to any housewife coming home to check on how the plumbing is going. Get a tattoo of the Epic of Gilgamesh that starts on your collarbone and works its way down your HVAC happy trail. Make human resources regret their decision. Become the office's new personality hire. Regale them with the Epic of Gilgamesh. And take 3 slices at the company pizza party. Get the receptionist's number. Burn their number. Marry the boss's secretary. Stand up to give a speech at the wedding. Regale the party with the Epic of Gilgamesh. Remove your shirt. Steal the wedding cake. Jump out the window. Abandon the wedding cake. Swim away in the Schuylkill River. Get a disease. Forge a new identity. Hike the Appalachian Trail. Get shin splints. Tell strangers the Epic of Gilgamesh. Smoke Salvia Divinorum. Get run over by a Mercedes E350 and listen to the brrrr as the light fades from your eyes. And your brain fires off one last synaptic bukkake that makes heaven tangible. Whisper to no one in particular with your final breath, Gilgamesh. You spent so much money, this build is like cheating. You can't start at first and goal and then do an end zone dance. I mean, it's not the owner's fault. Who wouldn't want to do this and build a battle wagon if you had the option? Why wouldn't you try to spice your wagon up in every way you could? But it feels like Renntech found a really nice cake and decided to load that bad boy up with butt cream frosting, and now Grandpa has a diabetic coma, and we need to sort out the will, and the real estate agent has a million questions. Of course, I say this, but this car's history actually got its start thanks to aftermarket tuners like Renntech. Basically, the AMG E-Class dates back to the late 1980s, when a shop in Illinois built a North American spec version of the Hammer wagon for a collector and AMG enthusiast based out of Canada. This was possibly largely because the shop in question was Classic Motors in Westmont, Illinois. They were a certified AMG parts seller, and as stated in Car and Driver's article, A Visual History of AMG Modified Mercedes-Benz E-Class Wagons, the shop was the de facto US headquarters for AMG. Now back then, the Hammer conversion cost close to $200,000, not today, but in 1987 dollars. That's over $500,000 in 2024 for a wagon. Now the car became something of a curiosity, but it didn't actually compel Mercedes-Benz to bring a performance wagon stateside, since it would take around 18 more years to finally get a production AMG E-Class wagon in the United States, this one based on the E55. And even then, it wouldn't be until the late 2000s that we would finally get the E63. By the time these E63s arrived, they had competition in the form of the Cadillac CTS wagon and the Audi A4, along with any number of automakers who were doing wagons that weren't in the 6-figure price range. See also the Dodge Magnum. Seriously, who would go for 6 figures for a wagon in 2015 for any other reason than trying to deplete your assets ahead of a spiteful divorce, and then to have a company offer up a build like this? And for what? This is the type of over-the-top build that makes you fear the day the aftermarket culture starts being regulated like airspace above Dulles. The sky is already so regulated, it's like Nate Dogg and Warren G are in New York Central. That was a joke just for my pilot friends. it's so good. So here's that hiking term I was talking about. So when you hike the Appalachian Trail, and this gets back to this wagon, you begin to learn a type of lingo and slang that only really relates to long-distance hiking. These terms you'll find with the Appalachian Trail, Continental Divide Trail, and Pacific Crest Trail in the United States. But since the advent of social media, these terms have now spread to other hiking communities around the world. And the term I'm going to tell you about is called platinum blazing. So when you hike, and we're using the Appalachian Trail as an example, when you hike through the woods, there will be white stripes, about maybe a foot long, 1.5 feet long, 4 inches wide, stripes on trees. Really the length of a paintbrush for a little bit. And they're white on the AT, and they're called blazes. And as you walk along, the idea is when you pass one blaze, you should be able to look ahead and see the next one. So there are parts of the trail where the trail isn't very worn, so you look for these white blazes to tell you where to go. So since everybody hiking is looking out for blazes, different terms in the hiking community take the suffix blaze. Like scandals in politics tend to take the suffix gate after Watergate. So when you hear somebody say white blazing, that just means they're following the trail. If you hear somebody say they're blue blazing, that means they're following a side trail, which are marked with blue, not white blazes on the trees or rocks or whatever. That's a side trail. You're not following the main one, you're going off the side one, usually to maybe a privy or a spring or going into town or taking a detour of some kind. Then there are actions an individual can take on the trail that are described as if you're following the trail, but you're not. They're taking the suffix blaze. There's a term called pink blazing. What that means is that you're a horny male and you're following a female hiker in the hopes you can put it in her. People in the gaming community would call this hovering. You hover around somebody in hopes you get in. Oh, surprised to find you here. You have changed your pace on the trail, so you accidentally, on purpose, end up at every campsite the object of your affection arrives at. That's pink blazing. Aqua blazing means that you've gotten into a boat or an inner tube or something, a floating device, something, and you floated down a river. And that's cheating. You just skipped the part of the marked trail. You're not white blazing, you're aqua blazing. Bye-bye. Yellow blazing. That refers to the yellow stripes on the road. That means you're getting into a car and skipping part of the trail. Yes, you're cheating. And that brings us to platinum blazing. Platinum blazing refers to a platinum credit card. You are hiking the trail, yes, but every time you come into town, out comes that credit card, and you're staying at the best hotel you can find. Or every single hostel, you're pulling that out. Or you're buying new shoes before the old ones have fallen apart. Or you're buying fresh meals all the time. You're not cheating, but you're kind of cheating because you're spending money to make your hiking experience easier. And that's what this is. You've spent a lot of money to have a very, very fast, rugged, practical, everything wagon. You're not suffering like the rest of us. You have a wagon that goes faster than a Dodge Demon. This thing will eat Teslas. Congratulations, you're the best. So, are you paying for my Wawa? I know you got it. Is this entire segment unnecessarily dramatic? Absolutely. This is inflating the importance and impact of aftermarket modifications onto something on par with an epidemic-destroying society, conspicuous consumption. And that's not at all what this is. If anything, it's a thought experiment, an argument to explore the mechanical and psychological necessity of modding. But if you want to get meta, this argument is excessive in its own right, and maybe that's the point. That in trying to attach a larger purpose to an 850 horsepower wagon, we're overlooking that some people just like going fast. They just like power. They just like surprising people who wouldn't expect it from a wagon like this. Ultimately, everybody is free to do what they want with the things that they have, as long as you're not hurting anybody. 850 horses is awesome. And yet it's not really anything that requires a gold star either. It rests on the laurels of personal taste. And I think the car underneath all this excess was good enough to stand on its own. Just buy one.
Oh
of
wait,
those.
you can't park it. We didn't do a race start.
I am wary about doing that because it's your car.
All right,
and
so
there's-
we'll do it. We'll go out with me driving it then.
I am bad luck. And we had a wonderful shoot in terrible weather and nothing bad happened. I'd like to keep it that way.
Okay.
So
Okay.